Good afternoon, everybody. Well, we're still working on parts for this Cat 980G. I went back and dug through my videos because I did a pair of these, I don't know, 8 months or so ago. And I can't tell if I'm just overlooking it or if I never actually posted video of that, because I thought for sure I had posted video of doing those. So anyways, you'll have to forgive me if I'm uploading videos that are identical to something I did before. Hit the fast forward button and ignore it. But anyways, so these end holes are pretty whooped on this, and they need to be done. This one has got some stuff that scares me a little bit about it. It's hard to see probably in the camera, but see like that porosity there, and then I can see a few spots in here where you can see ripples. These have clearly been welded and bored before. So we're up to, I was just doing a little cipher and making sure my numbers all made sense, and we're going to get to work. The other thing I'm going to do is, this is the lineup plug that I made last time, but I didn't love how that worked, and the reason is this. These faces are what I was clamping up against last time and trusting that to hold me square. What I've realized since then, it should have occurred to me then, but there is some wear on them, and you don't know that they wore perfectly flat. Now these, they're up out of the dirt and sand. They probably wore pretty good, but I don't like that. I don't trust it. So this one, we're going to put the new bushings in, and I'm going to take this lineup peg that I set the last ones on, and I'm going to turn it down so that it's a pretty snug fit inside of a new bushing, and has a shoulder on it that comes up against the face of that bushing, so that when I clamp this thing all up on this peg, it's actually centering on the bushing, not on anything else on the arm, because the bore in here is the only thing that is still factory that I trust. And we get a bushing shoved in there, get this tight on it. I will trust that to be holding. I mean, obviously the whole thing pivots on that. So if I'm truly parallel with the bore of that bushing on the pinholes on either end, I'll know that they're all dead parallel with each other. And that's what I'm concerned about. I don't want, to bore one of these out of square to that center hole. And what I realized, the last one, it went together nice, it worked fine, but that there was a certain amount of risk involved if one of these faces that I was trusting to be square was actually worn out of square. So, and you can see Wiggles here is putting his new tools he got for his 7th birthday to work. He's tearing apart the old P&H welder that we had down at my other shop that is so outdated. I don't know why anybody wants to use one of these anymore. I did a lot of work with it, but yeah, straight AC buzz box, 400 amp welder, but he's ripping her down and taking the guts out of it for me. Having fun, Wiggles?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, how's it going, Wiggles?
Good.
So Wiggles has been hard at it, tearing this apart. I think your problem here is you need to lift on both sides, because it's getting stuck on the
I
studs.
can't get that chain out.
Well, lift on it with a forklift. Just hook the chain on the forks and lift it out. Here, set her down and I'll pull this one off for you. Or you just go ahead and just get that chain out. Let her on down, Wiggles. Okay. Alright. So Wiggles is working at that. I have been busy over here. So I got the bushing swapped. I didn't bother showing any of that. You all know what replacing bushings looks like. I'm in the process of getting this up. So what I've done now is, I tried describing it on camera earlier, but I've turned this to where it's a fairly close slip fit inside the bushing, and then put a shoulder out here far enough so that instead of clamping against this face, I'm going to be clamping against the bushing itself. Now, what I'm really using that for is to get squared up on this table. I end up putting an angle plate up behind the side of here and clamping to it, and that's what actually takes all the machining force, or at least most of it. The main purpose of this is give me something to hang this thing on. The reason it's so high is because I don't have enough travel to have this on the table low and still be able to reach that side. And by putting it up here at like a 45-degree angle, I can, that of course swings this end in, and then I can reach that end with the machine. So anyway, I'm going to set the camera up and just let you guys watch a bit as I set this up. Alright, well, this is encouraging. It's always a little scary going into a hole that somebody else has welded for the first time. You don't know what they went in there with, if there's nasty hard spots, but it's sounding pretty good. So I think we're going to be okay on carving this one out. So this is about as small of a hole as you can get away with boring, running the spindle through. So these are a 3-inch bore, and that's a 3-inch spindle, but 3 inches is the finish dimension, and I'm cutting them oversized right now. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to weld them or if I'm going to sleeve them. If I weld them, I won't be able to finish boring through there like I am with this, but right now I'm cutting oversized so it works out. So I'm leaning pretty heavy towards boring and sleeving them though. I think in this instance that's going to be as good or better than the weld fix would have been. Alright, it's almost to the end of the cut. When you hear it stop, hear it's still cutting a little bit? Alright, now push her that way. You gotta snap it out of gear, give her a good whack and get her jumped out of gear. Yep. Push, Wiggles, push. There you are. Alright, bag her out, stand right on her. You want to back it until the tool's all the way out of there. That's pretty good. Alright, now you can shut her down. You got to push the red button. And then that locks down if you push it all the way. Alright, so we're making progress. You can see that shiny band in there? That's some of these weld beads that were laid in here are really hard. I'm almost all the way through them. You can see there's no weld showing up in here, but there and there I've still got some gnarly weld in the hole. So anyway, it's pretty rough on my tool, but we're making progress. Alright, the bore is to final dimension. I held it 5 thousandths under nominal, which in this instance is 3.25, so I'm at 3.245. I stopped there. Because I'm going to make the bushings on nominal size and let that 5.5 thou be the press fit on them. So the only thing I'd do now is I'm going to put a counter bore on each side because I'm going to put shoulders on these bushings. I don't want them to be able to walk out of the ends of this thing. The last time I did one of these, I left an unmachined lip at the outside that the bushings went against, but they didn't work real great because the faces of this are unmachined casting and they've got draft on them. So ended up going from like nothing to thick, so changing my tactics this time, and I'm going to just make the bushings a bit long, smack them through there up against that shoulder, and then probably, I don't know, I'll probably just make them to whatever the widest point is and let them stay that way. But anyway, that's what we're going to do, but that's tomorrow's project. It's time to call her quits for the day. Wiggles here is very bummed out because he wants to stay at the shop all night, don't you, Wiggles?
I want to go home.
Oh, all right. He wants to go. Good morning, everybody. So, I've actually got the first one of these completely done. It's over there. I didn't shoot a lot of video of that as I had somebody stop in, was visiting me while I was here working. So, anyway, I'll show you what we got. But it came out just fantastic. Bore dimensions are good. The only thing that I did wrong, if you want to call it that, is on the second set of holes, I bored it too nominal and didn't, it's got a quick look through a minute. Oh, yeah, it's looking pretty good. Bored it to nominal and didn't think to leave it undersized, but that ain't the end of the world. I'm making the bushings, so just seemed like a good idea at the time when I was doing the first one. So this one, having already machined one, I'm going after this pretty aggressively now, where I am taking almost all of the material I need to remove in one pass. I'm cutting something like 100 thousandths depth of cut here. Cutting through that weld was rough on my tooling, and I'm hoping that by cutting a little deeper I can kind of get underneath it more and just get it all out of there in one pass, but we'll see. I've done enough machining on the other one now to decide that my setup is pretty solid and I can get away with pushing it a little harder. So I'll show you what we got over here while this thing's cutting. Now what was interesting is there was no weld in this larger end. So it's all cut, counterboard. Same thing here, cut and counterboard. So, as soon as I get this one machined, it's going to be time to start working on some bushings. Alright, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but there is some wear on the tool, but it held up much better to that one heavy cut than the multiple passes that I've been doing before. And I mostly got through the weld on this. There's still, you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, the lines running across here that are the heat affected zone from weld passes, but for the most part, looking pretty good, and I think the tool is still good enough that we're going to carry on and cut some more. So anyway, this is all about, there is no exact, this is the way you do it every time, and this kind of repair work, I keep telling people, it's more art than science. It's just got to do with gut instincts and feel and past experiences. There's no textbook that can tell you here's the feed speeds and tool loading that's perfect for any given job when you're doing this kind of stuff. You have no idea what somebody welded that with. So anyway, we're going to go back at her and cut some more. Here we are. This is finish pass. I'm taking 1/1000th on a side. The only reason I'm being this fussy about it is because I want it to match that one as exactly as possible so I can make the bushings all the same and not have a bunch of odd sizes, you know, between the two parts. So anyway, these ones are getting bored to 5/1000ths under nominal. And then because I already cut the ones on that end on the other one to nominal, I'm going to do the same thing with that one. Once again, so that all the parts are exactly the same between the two and I don't have odd pieces. Alright, we nailed it. Dead nuts on the money. I just got to reach in here now and do them counter bores and we're ready to flip this around and bore the last end. Love the way this cast steel cuts. First pass, I'm running something close to 100,000ths depth of cut, just rolling nice little blue chips out of there. to make some big stringers there now. So while I'm working on this, Wiggles is going back to the old welder dismantling project. Dragging it back up. You can see he got the transformers out of that old P&H yesterday. We'll just break them down for copper. Now he's bringing this old miller over to get dismantled for parts. Alright, so we are cutting stock for making bushings. What this actually was an 18-foot long hydraulic cylinder for a bar feed mechanism off from a lathe. This cylinder tube is generally 4140, it's pretty good stuff. I bought off from a guy a while back for making bushings out of, and then I had a chunk of 4140 heavy wall I had bought for another job and didn't use it all. That was the right one for the small end. So anyway, this is the last one getting chunked. What I'm doing is making long enough pieces for 2 bushings at a time with 1.5 inches of material to grab, so I can grab it, turn 2's worth, part them off. Longer than that, and the hangout off the end of the chuck gets a little outrageous and a little too much hum and chatter, so make them in pairs 2 at a time this way. I just had to show you guys this. So he's got done stripping the guts out of this old P&H welder. This kid has no idea how much stuff he's learning. He wants to take the carcass out back, and he wants to use his tractor, so he's loading this up on the wagon. There's so much stuff about the balance points on machinery, and just when you learn stuff doing it this way, you just know stuff that you wouldn't know otherwise. I love watching him do this kind of stuff. And move his toolbox so he don't run it over. Yep. It's awesome. He's thinking ahead. Couldn't get backed out of it far enough. Applied the parking brake. Maybe a little out of order. You probably should apply the parking brake before you're climbing off the machine, but hey, he's learning. Setting the forks down. Not bad. He'd almost passed safety inspection. Alright, so there's the first bushing. Obviously, I had to take that burr off from it yet. But looks pretty good. Right now, it should be quite a rattly fit on this pin because I've got some crush calculated into it. Yeah, right now she's not real tight on there. And this one is intended for this bore right here. Anyway, we'll set that there. And then we're going to go back at it and make the next one. So, just parting off the second bushing now. This is a lot more fun than it used to be before I put oil in this system and started using this. cutting fluid. It's about impossible to dump enough on there by hand to keep this happy otherwise. Bushing. Morning everybody. I've been back at it here. Down to my finished pass on this bushing. Got to cooler off a bit so that my dimensions are good. Got myself some kind of cold, so we're a little bit stuffed up, but going pretty good. Turning it a little faster than I was yesterday. Decided I was being a bit overly cautious. It's taking way too long parting them off. Quick deburr the top edge of that thing. Ding! And another one is done. Well, howdy everybody. So I got very sidetracked and distracted trying to get those Z-links or bell cranks done for that Cat 980G. And in the process, completely forgot to video any of the final test fit of the bushing, or the pins to the bushing. So you're going to have to take my word for it. It fit great. I dropped it off the customer, and it's probably assembled and on the machine by now. So tomorrow morning, I'm supposed to go back up there, and there's 4 holes, so 2 sets of pin holes that have to be done on the bucket, and then I'll finally be completely done with that. I'll try and remember when I do that to let you know, but I think at this point, I've done something approaching 20 holes on that machine, and I've got over 60 man hours into it is where we're at with that 980G. But anyways, so just want to let you know it did go together good, and I'll probably shoot some more video of this, but this is a pile of Monarch parts that I'll have to tell you about in another video because I haven't got time to get into it tonight. But pretty cool stuff. We're collecting parts and pieces, and hopefully we're going to get that 10AA rocking before too long. So anyways, that'll be it for this round, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.